Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
GSMC Football Podcast. It's me, Andrew. Hello and welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andrew DeCino. And if you're listening to me, it has to be Friday, May 7th or beyond. You are not listening to me before that. Hate to break the news to you. But on this beautiful Friday, or at least I hope it is, if I am to predict correctly, we have some fun stuff to talk about today. Okay? So obviously last week was the draft, and we got into that quite a bit on Tuesday, and everyone has gotten into it, and we talked about Mac Jones, the different quarterback situations, all of that nice and fun stuff. Now, that's kind of breaking it down on a player level. But during the draft, there was something really interesting. There was called the Draftathon, where they had guys like Mariano Rivera, Tom Brady, Kevin Hart, all those fun cast of characters. And it was a big group of guys. And during that Draftathon, Zoom cast, some might say, Tom Brady had some interesting questions. He was posed a question by Shannon Sharpe, and we'll get into that in segment 1. What was the question posed by Shannon, and what was Tom Brady's response, and what do we think about this? And segment 2, we're going to be talking about the man Aaron Rodgers, quarterback, Green Bay. So, obviously, we talked on Tuesday. He's upset. He's not very happy. And now everyone's chiming in with their thoughts on what Aaron Rodgers should be doing or what Aaron Rodgers should be thinking, or, because everyone has to say something. Peanut galleries out there. So this is Aaron Rodgers in the peanut gallery. Next, we're going to get into another quarterback, but this quarterback's transitioning. He's transitioning to tight end. It's Tim Tebow. And he's 33. Does he have a shot of playing NFL football again? Because he played baseball for a little bit, and he played football before that. And he is just a stand-up guy. That's Tim Tebow. That's the third segment. Next segment and last segment of the show, we're going to be talking about the last 10 draft classes. Since it was a draft-themed weekend for us, we'll think about what draft classes have been the best in recent years? Who has turned out the best? And that's a long time. 10 years, there's guys who've retired since then. I mean, 10 years ago, was that, 2010 or 11? I can't count backwards. Yeah. So this is going way back there. So that's what's on the agenda for today. And let's just jump straight into the first one. Of course, the first one was Tom Brady. So on the Draftathon, Shannon Sharpe, of course, co-host of Undisputed with Skip, they talk a lot about Tom Brady. A lot. The show really doesn't have many topics, okay? They either talk about who's better, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, who's better, Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, who's better, Michael Jordan or LeBron James. They really don't cover a whole lot of topics. And then Skip is like, I covered the Bulls in, the 90s with Jordan and, and Shannon, Shannon's a smart guy. I like him. He played with Denver. He played in Baltimore, Hall of Famer. But the show doesn't have a wide variety of topics, just to get you caught up on a little background, in case you didn't know. So Shannon Sharp said to Tom Brady, he said, they ended up talking about Super Bowl 42, which was the almost undefeated season in which New England lost to the New York Football Giants in the Super Bowl. Of course, that was the helmet catch game. That was a heartbreaker for Brady, and Brady admits so too, because Shannon Sharp was asking Tom Brady. He said, "Would you trade 2 Super Bowls to have won that game, Super Bowl 42?" So you hand in 2 rings, and you get one, and that one is Super Bowl 42. So Tom Brady actually said, yeah, he would. He would do it. He would do the 2-for-1. He would want that undefeated season. And at this point, that kind of makes you think, that brings up the question, well, why does Tom Brady still play this long? I think he's trying to do that. I think he's trying to go undefeated and win a Super Bowl. Do something that will have the Miami Dolphins no longer sitting atop the mountain all by their lonesome. They get to pop a bottle of champagne every year as soon as that first team loses a game. And I think at this point, this could be what Tom Brady is striving to accomplish. Since he said he would trade that too. That probably game is the one that bothers him the most. Now, in that pregame during media week, Tom Brady was asked, the Giants think they can hold you to 17 points. And he laughed, and I think he said 17 points, and he, chuckled at it. Well, they held him to 14 points, if I am not mistaken. Held them to 14 points. And you could say, well, Tom Brady brought them down the field and threw the go-ahead pass to Randy Moss, which would have won them the Super Bowl, and then the fluke helmet catch. And there's a ton of things about that game that we could hyper-analyze. That was one where they were getting after Brady more than I have ever seen in my entire life. Comparable to a couple times in Denver when he was just hit and hit and hit and hit. So you got, Strahan and Tuck, Umanura coming after you. And he said, yeah, he would do the 2-for-1. Now, the next question, which should have been asked, which was not, was which 2 would you trade for that Super Bowl 42 victory? But may I say first, in my humble opinion, I would not have done that trade. I would not trade in 2-for-1. I think that Super Bowl 42 loss is one that has kept him motivated, like we have just determined. Through all these years, it's bothered him. It has created another chip on his shoulder. In 2008, of course, with that same team coming back, he injured his knee, got infected. 2009, he comes back. Comeback Player of the Year. Then 2010, first unanimous MVP of the league, 36 touchdown passes to only 4 interceptions all year. And then the Giants see you again the next year. And then, boom, another loss. But I think that 10-year gap from 2007, well, actually 2004 to 2014, that 10 years was part of the story for the second half of Tom Brady's career, if you split it up from first 3 to next 4. A lot of people have been splitting it up that way. Right? He won the first 3 so early in his career. Then you had the 10-year drought with 2 Super Bowl losses. And then in 2014, people are saying he's too old. He should be benched. Jimmy Garoppolo was drafted. And then he goes on and beats the Legion of Boom, the same Legion of Boom that destroyed Peyton Manning just a year prior to that. And I think that's a huge part of his story. Because the 10-year drought, man, the guy who won 3 Super Bowls early can't do it again. And now time's ticking. 2012 hits. 2013 hits. Numbers going a little bit down. 2014 hits. First 4 weeks of the season. Wow, we can see a decline pattern happening. Man, unfortunate for Tom Brady. He'll, just never get to that next Super Bowl and win it. And then he did. And I think that's a huge part of what makes those second window of Super Bowls so meaningful, I think, to him, and at least as a fan. Granted, I am 22 and just remember the recent Super Bowls, I guess the second 4, whereas the first 3 victories, I was 2, 4, and 5. So I'm not going to remember those. Not going to remember those. Obviously, I have rewatched tape on Super Bowl 42, and since I was 8 at the time, and then really it started clicking in terms of Super Bowls from 46 onwards. And so I disagree. I don't think he should be trading that in. But let's get to the games. What games would he trade in for that Super Bowl 42 victory in his mind, let's say? So let's start with the first one, Super Bowl 36. That was the first one. I think that's off limits against the Rams. They were the greatest show on turf. They were the greatest show on turf. They won it the year prior, I believe, or 2 years prior it might have been. And then you have this second-year guy who didn't even start week 1 of the season. He came in because Drew Bledsoe got injured. And then the AFC Championship game, Tom Brady gets injured. Drew Bledsoe comes in, helps them win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then so the Coach Belichick, has a decision on his hands. Who is he going to start? Bledsoe or Brady? And he went with Brady. He went with the young guy. He went with the unproven kid. And when the game was tied, what did they trust Tom Brady to do? To throw the ball, get them into position to kick a field goal, and kick the field goal for a win. When even the broadcaster, as we all I'm sure know the story, John Madden was saying they should just run the ball out and play for overtime. And that right there, trusting Tom Brady to throw the ball in that situation at such a young age, not only is the first one important and you never want to, that'll always be one of the most important for him, that trust in having him throw the football late in the game to win it is probably what gave him that cold as ice vein mentality late in the game where you just know, wow, we have Tom Brady, we're never out of it. That trust when he was in his second year in the league, first season starting really, and they trusted him to go do that against the greatest show on turf. All those comeback wins you've seen from Brady, or the fourth quarter, we'll get to these later Super Bowls in just a moment. But those comebacks and those, were pinned against a wall type moments, I think root from this game. That is what made Tom Brady, the fourth quarter legend. You're never out of it with Brady. And I think that was a big moment contributing to that. And then the next one was against Delhomme and the Carolina Panthers. Super Bowl 38. And so this is one, now you start asking yourself, okay, would Tom trade this one in? Now, the Patriots won 32-29, and they were favored by 7 in this game. And so you kind of think to yourself, okay, the Patriots were favored to win by 7 points. They went 14-2 in the regular season. They won all the rest of the games in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And in the first quarter, of course, no points were scored. And by all accounts, and again, I was 4 years old at the time. I was just about to turn February 1st, 2004. I was born February 2nd, the day before my birthday. I would have been turning actually 6. I beg your pardon. I was 5 at the time. I would have been turning 6. And the first half was a snoozer, according to primary witnesses, those who watched on TV. And then the fourth quarter was an absolute shootout. Patriots went up 21-10. Panthers scored, made it 21-16. Panthers scored, made it 22-21. Mike Vrabel caught a pass, 29-22. Panthers scored again, 29-29, and then Tom Brady gets them down the field. Kick the field goal, get out of there, next Super Bowl win. This right here could be one. This really could be one that he would trade in. But, so let's keep this on our tally. The next Super Bowl was against the Eagles the following year to repeat back-to-back. Back-to-back. And this was against Donovan McNabb. Of course, there are stories about him dry heaving on the field, and Terrell Owens was hurt but still went off, and Deion Branch wins Super Bowl MVP. Rodney Harrison has the closing interception. Now, the 2014 was one of the best New England teams, some would say. One of the best New England teams. I think they had a streak of 21 consecutive games that they won, which is, extremely impressive. Patriots, again, were favored to win by 7. And, for a team that was that dominant, they only won by 3. But a Super Bowl win is a Super Bowl win. I'd probably say that this is on the table for being one of the Super Bowls to trade in. And so those are the first 3. Now let's jump to the next 4. 10-year gap. 2014, I am saying this is off limits completely. You look at the story of the season. I had mentioned it earlier. Everyone had Tom Brady dead to rights. He was old. He was washed up. 2-2 through the first 4 weeks. Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, scores a touchdown against Kansas City. Now they're playing the 3-0 Cincinnati Bengals. And then, boom, Tom Brady fires back and says, you know what? Not so fast. And then they go on just an unbelievable streak. Unbelievable. They get into the playoffs. That was the season with the Edelman pass against Baltimore. Down 14 points, tie at 14-14. Down 28-14, tie at 28-28. Go ahead, one of the best throws, in my opinion, in Tom Brady's career was a perfect dime to Brandon LaFell to give him the lead. And then you escape. You escape Baltimore, who had tortured you in prior seasons, in the playoffs too. Your arch nemesis. And then you go and play Indianapolis and you blow them out. And then Deflategate happens. Deflategate happens, and people start to doubt the legitimacy of the New England Patriots. Even though in the second half, with quote-unquote properly inflated footballs, they outscored the Colts 28-0, and Tom Brady had like a .666 EPA per play, which is unheard of. But still, people were calling them cheaters. They were calling Tom Brady a cheater. This is different from Spygate, because Spygate, everyone was saying Belichick is the cheater, the Patriots organization is a cheater. This one was pinned on Tom Brady. It was a witch hunt. Anyone who knows me knows that Deflategate was unbelievably corrupt. The investigation yielded the Wells report that Tom Brady was more probable than not that he knew about deflated footballs. even though the ideal gas law says that it's completely plausible for the balls to have naturally deflated given the temperature of the game in New England in January. But okay. And then so you go against the Legion of Boom, the Seahawks, who had dismantled Peyton Manning the year prior. And again, you find yourself down 10 points in the fourth quarter. Tom Brady had thrown 2 picks to that point. And what does Tom Brady do in the fourth quarter? He goes 13 of 15 with 2 touchdowns. And the go-ahead one to Julian Edelman on a play that they had never practiced before. They had run it the series prior, and Brady missed the throw to Edelman. Comes back right to him, and those two get it done. And, of course, that's the Malcolm Butler interception. There is no way in HE double hockey sticks, I don't know what I'm allowed to say, that Brady would trade that one in. Let's go to the next one, Super Bowl 51. That's the 28-3 game. His mother hadn't been able to come to a game all year long because she was battling cancer. And they find themselves down by 25 in the second half. Oh, and by the way, what happened the first 4 games of the season? Tom Brady's suspension was enacted for Deflategate. 28-3. Mother's first game in attendance all year long. You see Julian saying in overtime to Tom Brady, let's go win this thing for your mom. And one of the, it's just the best comeback in Super Bowl history. There's no way he's trading that in. Now, I think the one that he's definitely trading in is the next one, which is Super Bowl 53 against the Rams. That was probably Tom Brady's worst performance. He only had to make about 2 to 3 throws. Big throws, but he made them. And it was kind of not a great game. It was 13-3, but of course they won. He got his 6. So I'm going to say, yeah, he would trade that one in. And then the last one, of course, is off limits with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's the one that proves that, yeah, I'm getting it done without Bill. He's not trading that one in. I can tell you that for sure. So now we have the Rams one, the second Rams one, I might say, Super Bowl 53. And then I'll go with Super Bowl 30. I'll go with Super Bowl 38. That would probably has a little less meaning to him than 39. Just because, you're playing Jake Delhomme. No offense to Jake Delhomme if you're listening, but I think that Super Bowl 39 team, the 14-2, that huge streak of wins in a row, Donovan McNabb, Terrell Owens, I think that has a little more meaning to him. So I'll go with those two. Those are the two that he trades in. Now, speaking of trades, Aaron Rodgers wants one. He wants to leave the Green Bay Packers, and now everyone is commenting on what Aaron Rodgers should do and what he should think, and because everyone's opinion is legitimate now, let's hear what Aaron Rodgers has for an update. What his friends might be saying, too. Coming up right after the break.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Hello and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. I am Andrew Decino here, and we had, I think, an awesome first segment. We really did. We talked a little bit about football history and the GOAT, Brady. Michael Strahan and Shannon Sharp and Kevin Hart, Julian Edelman, Mariano Rivera were all on a draft-a-thon, and it was Shannon who asked, Brady, would you trade in 2 rings to win Super Bowl 42, your undefeated season? Brady said yeah, and we uncovered which games we think he would be trading in, which Super Bowl wins he'd be trading in for that one. Now, another quarterback. And as we said before we hit the commercial break, speaking of trades, this quarterback wants one. He wants out of Green Bay, and we uncovered this on Tuesday, how Aaron Rodgers is really unhappy with what the Packers organization is doing. He's unhappy that they drafted his replacement, Jordan Love, far too soon, that they actually moved up in the draft to go pick him. It means they loved him. When you move up for a guy in the draft, that means you generally really like that player and that you don't want to wait because you A, don't think he's going to fall down to you in the draft, or B, you just really need him and you just can't risk anything. So they moved up to get him. Now, the Packers do have a history of not getting Aaron Rodgers help, drafting-wise, which is interestingly enough because when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you would want to put some pieces around him. You know, and granted, he's 38 years old and he's still fantastic, but 38-year-olds need some help too. Even in 2010, he was throwing, Jordan Nelson, Greg Jennings. These are great guys. I think he had, James Starks. So the Packers have refused, or implicitly refused, that, they're not going to give him any help through the draft at least. And he's got some guys there. He has Devontae Adams. He has Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He has, those great running backs there. Aaron Jones. Jamal Williams. So he has some pieces, but still, they can't, in the last 4 NFC Championship games, they can't not get past that threshold. They can't make it back to the Super Bowl. And so, between roster decisions, Jordan Love, and not having a contract that he wants the Packers to commit to him. And I don't think he would be asking the Packers to commit to him contract-wise if they didn't have his replacement sitting in the wings. Because when you have the replacement sitting in the wings, it's incumbent upon the team. It's the teams now has the ability to say, okay, Rodgers, we think you're done. We're just going to start Love now. Plug and play. Let's go. He's ready. See ya. But if you have Rodgers under contract with guaranteed money, they're unlikely going to just say, okay, Aaron Rodgers, you're going to make $30-some million this year, and we're locked into that, even if we cut you. So that's what Aaron Rodgers wants. He wants the decision for when he stops playing quarterback to be with himself, with Aaron Rodgers, not with the team. Similar to Tom Brady, and we got into this just an episode ago. He wanted to have the ability to say when he wanted to call it quits. And his father was keen enough to understand, Tom Sr., that is. He said, years ago, the split between Tom Brady and the Patriots eventually, right, because all things do have to come to an end, is going to be an ugly one. And it turned out it wasn't the prettiest. I would say it was pretty ugly. The coach and the quarterback clearly weren't getting along. They were not seeing eye to eye contract-wise. Tom believed in himself, and he bet on himself, and he won. And Aaron Rodgers still thinks he can play at a high level, and Green Bay is saying, well, it's kind of irresponsible of us to not think about the future. But they don't. So I guess they don't believe in Rodgers as much as Rodgers believes in Rodgers. And so everyone's commenting left and right, about what's going to happen. On draft night on Thursday, the first round, most of the attention didn't go to who was going to get picked with the first 32 selections. Most of the attention went because it was leaked that Aaron Rodgers is disgruntled enough with Green Bay that he does not want to return to the team and play for them in 2021. So that begged the question, well, where is he going to play? It leaked again, and this time by the mouth of Kyle Shanahan, the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, that they were trying to trade out of the third pick to get Aaron Rodgers. They were willing to give up the third overall pick for Aaron Rodgers. Then teams like Denver emerged that they wanted to get Aaron Rodgers, and that made sense because John Elway has done that before with Peyton Manning, to try and squeak out a Super Bowl or so at the end of their career. And Denver has a great team around them. Great receivers, great weapons. And I think Rodgers would love that. And Rodgers, I don't think he's bluffing. I think he does not want to play in Green Bay next year. And so now everyone is commenting on what Aaron Rodgers is doing. And I think some people are kind of split up. Some favor the Green Bay Packers, some favor Aaron Rodgers' side. Now, I would be leaning towards siding with Aaron Rodgers. A guy like him, granted, he's only won one Super Bowl, which probably does give you a lot of say in how long you can play with that organization. The more you win, the more they'll say, okay, we owe it to you. He's won one Super Bowl, but the MVPs he's won and the physical talent and the way that he throws the ball is once in a lifetime. Terry Bradshaw chimed in. Terry Bradshaw's won 4 Super Bowls, tied with Montana, until Brady leapfrogged them, and now he's almost doubled them, by the way, with 7. So Bradshaw said, quote, with him being that upset shows me how weak he is. How weak he is. Who the hell cares who you draft? I mean, he's a 3-time MVP in the league, and he's worried about this guy they drafted last year at number 1. And for him to be upset, my God, I don't understand it. Pittsburgh drafted Mark Malone number 1, Cliff Stout in the 3rd or 4th round. I had them coming at me from all angles. I embraced it because when we went to practice, I wasn't worried about those guys, you know? They didn't scare me a bit. So I don't understand why he's so upset at Green Bay. Another quote, he said, and then if they fire the general manager, he'll come back? Are you kidding me? Really, Aaron? That's where this is? Here's what I'd do. I wouldn't budge. Let him gripe. Let him retire. This is if you're Green Bay. Retire. You're 38. Go ahead and retire. See you later. I mean, I'm really strong about stuff like that, and it makes him look weak. In my way of looking at it, it makes him look weak. Now, that's the end of the quote. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is weak for doing this. I would also be upset if the organization who I have provided so much benefit to, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, let's face it, 3-time MVP, and they're on the fringe of a Super Bowl with him, and without him, they are not even close. Without Aaron Rodgers, you want to start in Jordan Love next season? Go ahead. Green Bay, start Jordan Love next season and see how it goes. And this isn't a knock on Jordan Love, because Green Bay knows it too. Jordan Love was not the backup last year. Do you remember that? Jordan Love was not the backup last year. He was the 3rd string. They didn't even trust him if Aaron Rodgers got hurt, which he has in recent years, to fill in. So you're telling me he would make the leap from 3 to 1 this year? Okay. You'd be hard-pressed to convince me. And to be weak? No, I think Aaron Rodgers completely has the leverage. I think he has a lot of other interests. He wants to host Jeopardy. He's a very, very smart guy. He's made a boatload of money, and he is 38. He has the leverage. He could walk away if he wants, but I don't think he wants to. I think he wants to take more stabs at winning the Super Bowl at this point. Now, Green Bay would probably be hesitant to trade him. What would Green Bay do? Well, Green Bay, you can either make amends. It's still not too late to make amends with Aaron Rodgers, because the feud is not between Aaron Rodgers or a player. The feud is not between Aaron Rodgers or Matt LaFleur. The feud is between him and the front office. He does not like the front office. He does not like the GM. Doesn't like Gutekunst. But it's not too late to make amends with Aaron Rodgers if you're the Green Bay Packers, and you should. You should say to Aaron, we'll help you on the contract. We'll get you the guarantee you want. Okay? We'll probably end up picking up the 5th-year option with Jordan Love. That way you can, at least we can buy time for 4 more years for you here. Aaron. We'll help you out. We'll give you some say in the roster. You've earned that much. You could, be involved with discussions about who you might like, who you might not. But we are not trading you. Daniel Jeremiah was on the Pat McAfee show on Wednesday, and that is today for me. And he said This is an NFL insider now. He did used to work within the league, but Jeremiah said, if I'm a GM for a team in the NFL, if I'm a GM of the Green Bay Packers, there's no way I would want on my resume that I traded Aaron Rodgers. And let's think about that. You traded Aaron bleeping Rodgers. Does any GM want to have that? Because at the end of the day, it kind of is an indicator that you may not be the best person to work with. And granted, we could say the same thing about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a prideful human being. So I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to really back down here. Could I see him saying, I don't want to play for Green Bay as a bluff? Yeah, I could see it. I could see it to get the contract he wants. I think if Green Bay comes to him in the scenario in which I just said, with open arms saying, hey, we're willing to do X, Y, and Z, but we're not willing to trade you. We're willing to give you the contract that makes you happy. We are willing to have you involved in roster decisions. Let's make amends here. Let's go win it. We're on the brink of winning a Super Bowl. We're so close. Back-to-back NFC Championship games. We're close, Aaron. I think that you can resolve it there. Now, and that's okay. I think that's a possible solution. But if the Packers say we're not going to trade you, and they hold fast on that, and Aaron Rodgers says, okay, I'm not going to play for you, I need to be traded. If Aaron Rodgers wants to be traded, and the Packers say, no way are we going to trade you, what happens? Because now we're in a stalemate. Because a former teammate and phenomenal linebacker for the Green Bay Packers for all those years, A.J. Hawk, said there's no way that he retires. So if there's no way he retires, if Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay adamantly and Green Bay will not trade him, what happens? Is he just going to... He could just not play, right? Hold out? Would that be like pulling an Antonio Brown until you do get traded? I don't know. I don't know what happens in the stalemate that results in that. And what is former teammate and the man that Brett Favre, or sorry, I gave it away, the man that Aaron Rodgers replaced at quarterback, Brett Favre, have to say about this? He said, quote, Aaron and I have a great relationship, and we talked about it. Obviously, he's a little disappointed. Aaron, do you ever look around and say, I feel like the odd man out? And he said, yeah. Knowing Aaron, and I think I know him fairly well, if he has a grudge, whether it be against the organization or a player or an arch rival or family, friends, he ain't budging. I don't see him coming back and saying, if this is not resolved, however, whatever the issue is, if it's not resolved or even if it is resolved, but he feels like they have one up on him, he ain't going to play. Knowing Aaron, he would sit. Now, he would forego a lot of money, but he's also got a lot of money. That is, I take that comment with a lot of legitimacy. Brett Favre knows Aaron. He knows exactly what he's dealing with, going to work every day with your replacement being in the building. Brett Favre said at the time, he said, it's a horrible feeling going to work with your replacement sitting there. It's like if you're thinking Breaking Bad, it's Walt cooking with Gale, knowing that they want to replace him. And as good as Walt is, he gets the 99.1% purity rating for the meth. Gale, I think, can only hit 96, but they still want to replace him. And so Walt went to work knowing they wanted to replace Gale, and then, spoiler alert, Jesse kills Gale for Walt so that they could not kill Walt, and he remained of value. Similarly, Brett going to work with Aaron doesn't feel great. Aaron going to work with Jordan Love doesn't feel great. No matter what the relationship is genuinely between the two, just because of the nature of the situation, it just can't be a good feeling. And I agree with Brett where he says that Aaron is not going to budge. He is prideful. He will not come back, like Brett says, unless he feels like he was treated fairly and that maybe he won. Maybe Aaron does treat this as a situation of winning and losing versus the organization. You know, if he felt that the contract and that whatever the Packers give him is enough to say, hey, you know, I did it. I said these, you know, comments about not wanting to play, and now I got the long end of the stick. You got the short end. Now I'll play. But I think if he feels like the sticks are even, or if he gets the short end, there's no way. And I agree with Brett on that. Aaron is a prideful guy. That's just his personality, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. So that's what Brett has to say. Now, what do the Packers have to say? Well, the Packers think that there's tampering involved. They think that teams reaching out or saying that they want Aaron Rodgers is tampering. Now, straight from Pro Football Talk, and they are legitimate when analyzing the rules, whether it's Mike Florio, Michael David Smith, they know the rule book better than most people out there. They said, quote, under NFL rules, a player under contract to a team cannot be contacted by representatives of any other team unless the player's current team gives other teams permission. So if the Packers decide to trade Rodgers, they could give other teams permission to talk with him about a trade. But right now, the Packers say they will not trade Rodgers and have not given any team permission to contact him. End quote. So when Kyle Shanahan said publicly that they reached out to try and inquire about Aaron Rodgers, that could be tampering. But we discussed this on Tuesday. The league picks and chooses when they want to enforce the tampering rule. And it is what it is. You can't, if they want to go after him, they will. And if they don't, they don't. The Packers think tampering, which sounds like they still are gung-ho on not wanting to trade Rodgers. Now, what would I do if I were Aaron Rodgers, and what would I do if I were the Green Bay Packers? Well, if I were the Green Bay Packers, like I said, similar to Daniel Jeremiah, I am not going to be an NFL executive who disposed and traded of Aaron Rodgers. That's not going to be on my resume. I'm not going to have that to my name. Plus, they're a Super Bowl contender with Rodgers. And if you trade him and you start Love or you start whoever, you're not. That's the reality of it. You're just not. What would I do if I was Aaron Rodgers? Same thing. I would want to... Who gives Aaron Rodgers the best chance to get to a Super Bowl? And it's Green Bay. Getting traded to Denver, let's say. Now you're in Patrick Mahomes' division. Play him twice a year. You play Justin Herbert twice a year. Right now, you play Derek Carr twice a year. Those are not easy teams to play 6 times a year. Whereas right now, you get to play Jared Goff twice a year, Kirk Cousins twice a year, and whether it be Andy Dalton or Justin Fields, pick your poison, them twice a year. That's a lot better path to get to the Super Bowl because you'll win the division if you're Green Bay in all likelihood. What if you go to San Francisco? They wanted him. Now that would be unlikely because I doubt Green Bay would want to trade him within the conference. There's just no way about that either. So if I was Aaron Rodgers, I'd want to try somehow to make amends with Green Bay. And I know I am prideful, so I would want really bad for Green Bay to give me what I want, make amends. I still love my teammates. I still love my head coach. And let's go and try and get to and win a Super Bowl that we haven't for over a decade. And like we said last week, if you have Brett Favre and you have Aaron Rodgers and you only get a Super Bowl out of each of them for the course of like 30 years, that's not a success. I think Green Bay is going to keep him. All right. After the break, we are going to get into a man that's currently not on an NFL roster but has been working out with the Jacksonville Jaguars and a former collegiate coach of his. Let's find out who that is right after the intermission.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching.
Hey!
The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello, and we are back again here, ready to rumble in the third segment of this show. In the first two segments, we had some fun. We talked about Tom Brady, then we talked about Aaron Rodgers. Some would say the two GOATs, or at least whenever they do play each other, that is the marketing campaign taken by whatever network is calling their game. The two GOATs are playing each other. I remember... This is a sidetrack. I remember back in 2018, they're going to play on Sunday Night Football. So obviously NBC had it, and one of the commercials, it was like LeBron versus Jordan or something like that, and they were equating it to Brady versus Rodgers. Now I think the LeBron versus Jordan argument is a lot closer than the Brady Rodgers, because at least in my book, no one's even close to Brady. So in this segment, we're going to continue the theme of talking about quarterbacks. But are we really? Because is this man truly a quarterback? And that man is Tim Tebow. So the same Thursday when we had the NFL draft, the same Thursday when news was coming about Aaron Rodgers being disgruntled and not wanting to be in Green Bay, that same Thursday, it was reported that Tim Tebow had a workout. The Jaguars. But guess at what position? Tight end. Tight end for Tim Tebow. And, of course, guess who the new head coach is of the Jacksonville Jaguars? It is Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer coached Tim Tebow at Florida, and they won together quite a bit. In fact, Tim Tebow, he won a Heisman in 2007. He came in third in 2008 and fifth in 2009. And then he was drafted four-year starter at Florida. Stats. Well, actually not. He didn't start his first year. Excuse me. I beg your pardon. Started in 2007. And he was superb. And that Florida team did a lot of good things. They went 9-4 in his 2007 campaign. They were first by year end in 2008. I believe that was the championship winning team. They scored a ton of points. They went 13-1. They were first by year's end. And then the 2009 squad finished with a 13-1 record, and they were ranked third by year end. And, of course, Tebow led the helm for these teams. You may say, how can a quarterback transition to tight end? How is that possible? Sometimes we hear about quarterbacks going to running back. I think Denard Robinson from Michigan did that. Maybe a little slot receiver if you're quick. Who knows? But tight end is a physical position, one that requires you to block like a sixth offensive lineman, and one that requires you to catch like you're a big wide receiver. And so that, to me, is interesting because Tim Tebow, we know what he can do rushing. He has compiled almost 3,000 yards in his college career. I know we're talking about college still, but he had 23 rushing touchdowns in 2007, 12 in 2008, and 14 in 2009. Amassed over 900 yards in 2009 on the ground, but he's never caught a football in college. So, I mean, this is the move to tight end. And, of course, this was reported on Thursday. So, Shad Khan, the owner of the team, told Bleacher Report, Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, that is, told Bleacher Report that Urban Meyer does believe that Tim Tebow can help this team win. Quote, Tim has definitely come in and worked out. So beyond that, I can't say too much. But Tim has come in and worked out as a tight end. That's not a position that we've seen him play, but it's a position that he's been practicing at with us. So that will be interesting to see how that contributes to us on offense, too. Obviously, Urban knows Tim really well, and Tim has a great history of winning. Urban really believes he can help us win. And if I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it makes a lot of sense, and is a position where we need to get better. I think right now this is end quote. I think right now the only tight end on their roster that's noteworthy is, I believe, James O'Shaughnessy. Correct me if I am wrong. So, Shad Khan approves of it. The head coach approves of it. You just drafted a quarterback, number 1 overall, Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be starting right away. So obviously he's not going to come in and play quarterback for you. But can he add a juicy little spice to this offense? I think so, right? I remember when Tebow was on the Jets. I think they would use him for a lot of gimmicky stuff. They never gave him a chance to actually play quarterback, but he was maybe a 2-point conversion, a trick play, whatever it is. And then when he was in New England for, I believe, a preseason, I was like, oh, man, we're never going to kick an extra point. We're just going to go for 2 every time with Tebow. And we can rewind to his playing days in Denver, because that is obviously where he played quarterback the most. So what happened in Denver where no one else wanted him to play quarterback ever again? Because he's only played in 35 games in the NFL. Right? In 2010, played in 9 games, 3 started, went 1-2, completed 50% of his passes. Not impressive. But he did have 1 fourth quarter comeback. So that's noteworthy. Now, 2011, this was the Tebow Mania season. In 2011, he went 7-4 with 5-game fourth quarter comebacks. That led the league. 7-4, only completed 46.5% of his throws, 12 touchdowns, 6 picks. So, he wasn't the most accurate guy, but he got really accurate in the fourth quarter. He was really good in the fourth quarter. Now you think, okay, well, we broke down what he did on the ground in Florida in his college days. How did he do rushing the football in Denver? Well, in 2011, which is the most amount of games he played in a season in his career, 11 games started, 14 games total, he rushed the ball 122 times, 660 yards, 6 touchdowns, 38 first downs. That's pretty good. 5.4 yards per attempt. So the thing here, all those game-winning drives, that is, I think, what the aura of Tim Tebow was. He didn't do much for you in the first 3 quarters of the game. But then when the fourth quarter came on, it was people were making jokes like he was sending prayers to God and he was answering for him. He had some ugly games. Yeah. Some ugly games. I mean, completing less than 50% of your passes is not good at all. But, I mean, there were times when he looked pretty good in his 2011 campaign. He had a 149.3 passer rating against Minnesota. Won that game. Against Kansas City. 102.6 rating. Oakland, 98.1 rating. San Diego, 101.7. Miami, 91.7. And then, guess what he did in that same year? He went to Pittsburgh. Hosted Pittsburgh. And what did he do in overtime? Throw like a 80-yard touchdown to beat Pittsburgh. Had a 125.6 rating in that game. That's pretty good, huh? Rushed the ball for 50 yards. 5 yards an attempt. And then, of course, that sent him to New England. And that was atrocious. Yeah, that was horrible. But that was a lethal Patriot team. You had Aaron Hernandez literally all over the field. Rob Gronkowski was catching 3 touchdowns. You had Welker. You had, I believe, was Branch back yet? Not sure. But that was an unbelievably loaded team, and they just dismantled the Broncos. So you can't really hold that too much against them. So that right there, going 7-4, and I know my friend Bruce Nolan would say wins are not a quarterback stat, but he did have a winning record of 7-4 as a starter in 2011. And he did have 5 fourth-quarter comebacks. And there are some intangible thing, and I know we, in football and statistics, and to try and win as many games as we can, we do try and quantify everything and do try and understand it statistically. Like, why is this happening? And could you say 5 fourth-quarter comebacks are luck? You could. 6 in his career. There's some spark where he does turn it on in the fourth quarter and becomes a lot better. Tim Tebow did play well in the fourth quarter of those games. Now, in his fourth quarter, he's had, like I said, 6 fourth-quarter comebacks. You want to see what his stats were in the fourth quarter? I do too. Now, I believe he has a rating of over 100 passing the football after the third quarter. And in his 6 regular season fourth quarter comebacks, He's had a rating of 89, 91, 61, 95, 149, 68. And I think that that's not a bad proxy for how he played. Now we can use some other metrics too, like his adjusted yards gained per pass attempt. And probably his best comeback was against Minnesota when he had 16, but all of them are right around 7 or so, which isn't bad either. And I think Tim Tebow didn't get his fair shot. That's the sum of all I'm saying here. He didn't get a fair shot because then he goes to the Jets. Now, granted, John Elway, Peyton Manning fell into his hands, and you have to take Peyton Manning. I understand that completely. You take Peyton Manning, Tim Tebow, but goes on to the Jets where he is just not given his fair shot. They didn't want him to play quarterback. They had Mark Sanchez instead. And then that was it for him. That was it for him. No one believed him, and he had to go play baseball, where, by the way, he went to a minor league all-star game. So he wasn't bad at baseball after not playing it since high school. That's pretty impressive. It shows you how good of an athlete he is. And then on top of that, his ability as a college football analyst is spectacular. I think a lot of people would say Tim Tebow is a really good TV personality as well. So he is succeeding in most facets of his life. He played and won a football game in the playoffs. He played in 35 career games, started 16 of them. He won more games than he lost. So he can play. He can play NFL football. He can play professional baseball. He can hang with the best TV commentators and analysts and personalities because people like watching Tim Tebow. He has an infectious personality. He is an extremely likable person. I don't know how you can dislike Tim Tebow. And now I do like that Urban Meyer, his former college coach, and this is the only reason why the Jaguars are doing it, is because Urban Meyer wanted to. I don't know if Tim Tebow reached out to Urban or if Urban reached out to Tim Tebow. Either way, I think he deserves a workout. It was a nice thing for Urban to do. And do we think that Tim Tebow can play still? I think that's what the workout determines. Now, it helps that the Jaguars don't have a stud tight end on their roster. Tim Tebow, granted, is also 33 years old right now. And together, and excuse me, I was speaking earlier about Tim Tebow's college statistics. They won 2 national championships together, 2 BCS national championships. And Tebow was a 2-time SEC Player of the Year, and he won the Heisman in 2007. So the two, I'm sure, get along great, because when you win together, especially in college like that, you do have a connection. You do appreciate what you do for each other. I would be very excited to have Tim Tebow on my team. I don't think he is a guy that causes distractions. I think he's a great guy to have in the locker room. He's not a guy like Chad Ochocinco or Terrell Owens or Antonio Brown, who might be a distraction on your team. Now, Antonio Brown has behaved very well for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I will say that. But Tim Tebow is a great guy. He is someone I would want my players to be around. And by working him out at tight end, you know, obviously you got Trevor Lawrence. He knows he is not threatened at the position of quarterback. But yeah, even to have Tebow like work out as quarterback, you'd have people talking about that, drawing, you know, is there going to be a quarterback back? Whatever, taking snaps away from Lawrence. This is not the case at all. He would not be taking snaps away from Lawrence. He would just be one of the 5 eligible receivers out of year 11 on some plays. So I like the move. I like it a lot. I would love to see Tim Tebow back in the NFL. Obviously, you don't get to see a lot of him if he's playing minor league baseball, because that's just not aired. But imagine a team with Lawrence, that hype around it, Travis Etienne, and then you say, okay, Tim Tebow, tight end. Now, I think the only question is, can he block? Now, he's a big guy, but blocking takes more into account than just your size. You can't just take any big guy and say, go block. So I think you need to teach him that. Can he run? Can he move? Yes, he can. So in terms of catching, I could see him, line him up maybe at H-back. So you play some tight end, you play some running back, you play here, you play there. Get the ball in his hands. And let's see what he can do still. I'd be very interested to see. And I think everyone should be rooting for Tim Tebow. He is an extremely likable guy, like I have said many times now. And I think that's a fun team to watch now if you're in the AFC South. That's probably the most fun team, if in fact Tebow does come there. So now you have Houston. They don't know what's going on at quarterback. You have Indianapolis. You have Carson Wentz, who I don't believe in. Tennessee is always going to be a tough football team if Mike Vrabel is coaching them. But they've had issues at receiver now. They've lost a couple guys. Lost Corey Davis. You lost Jonnu Smith at tight end. And you have A.J. Brown, of course, and he's spectacular. And the Titans' name in game is ground and pound. Now you got Jacksonville, whose name of the game is probably going to be Trevor Lawrence. But could you imagine Tim Tebow on that team too? I'd love to see it. And let's see what happens in the coming weeks. So that's Tim Tebow and the latest on him. And a fun segment for the last segment, of course, since we didn't have the draft this past weekend, we're all excited to see how these players will do. Some will boom, some will bust. We know that. That's a fact. Not every team, of course, can go 14-2. There's only so many games you can win, so many games you can lose. But let's rank the last 10 draft classes in the NFL and see which ones have been the best and which didn't fare so well. That's going to be coming up right after the break.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I am your humble host, Andrew DeCino, and we are talking football today. Shocker. Wow. No, but I hope you are enjoying your Friday because we've had a great time so far on our Friday together. We have discussed several different quarterbacks, including Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Tom Brady trading Super Bowl rings. Aaron Rodgers want to get traded. And then we talked about a former quarterback, Tim Tebow, former baseball player, too. He's working out with the Jacksonville Jaguars because of the tie that he has to head coach Urban Meyer in his playing days in Florida. So the next and last segment, this is going to be a fun one. We're going to rank these NFL draft classes from the last 10 years. Now, it's going to be hotly contested. I'll say that. And I'm going to just start off at 10. At 10, I'm going to go with a 2000, and I'm excluding this draft class because, of course, they haven't even played any games yet. The 2019 draft class is the 10th ranked draft class of the last 10 years. Now, I'm doing this on the basis of the first round, which I know is not accurate to do because there's a ton of other players from each draft class that just aren't drafted in the first round. But I'm going to use the first round as it is going to be the most meaningful for our purposes together. Now, I ranked them 10th because you have guys like N'Keal Harry who have, in my opinion, officially busted for the New England Patriots. And if you take a look at the top guys from this class, Nick Bosa is awesome. Devin White is awesome. Kyler Murray, obviously the first overall pick, he's done pretty well. And then you have Josh Jacobs, who has been great. Darnell Savage has been really good. Noah Fant is proving himself. Then you have your mix-ins like Dwayne Haskins, too. You know, it's difficult to quantify here, but I still think, again, this may be too soon to tell. Obviously, the jury still is out with this 2019 class, but I have them ranked 10th on my list. Now, number 9 is going to be the 2015 NFL draft class. Now, I have them as 9. Again, this is the draft class with Winston and Mariota. Those are the first 2 overall. Now, both are not starters in this league. The first 2 overall picks are not starters. Dante Fowler has played, I think, pretty well over the course of his career. Amari Cooper, we know he's been great. Now, then you have Kevin White, who busted at wide receiver. Danny Shelton's been okay. Todd Gurley and Melvin Gordon have had their share of interesting NFL careers so far. Nelson Aguilar is a decent receiver, but he was drafted in the first round. But then you have, Philip Dorsett. Now, I like Philip Dorsett. He played in meaningful moments for the New England Patriots, and I will thank him for that. He was drafted in the first round, though. Remember that. So I think this is a little better than the 2019 draft class. Just, the rookie of the year was Todd Gurley for offense, and the defensive rookie of the year, Marcus Peters. Peters is, I think, still great. Gurley, his knee injury. So we'll see there. So now let's get to the next ranking on our list. Next on the list, we have the 2016 NFL draft class. They are ranked number 8 for me. Now, okay, just to familiarize yourself, again, 2 quarterbacks at the top, Goff and Wentz. Now, Goff is still starting and Wentz is still starting. This is what puts them ahead of the other 2. And then you got guys like Joey Bosa and Zeke Elliott and Jalen Ramsey. This is a stacked draft class. Now, they are low down on my list, but that's not to say that, these guys aren't studs. Now, you do have your mix-ins of like Paxton Lynch. Will Fuller is a good starter. He's a good receiver. Tunsil is in there too. Remember him with a gas mask or weed mask. So you do have, your fair share of really good players, and that is what elevates them to be ranked 8th on my list. 8th is not bad because you're about to see why I have in front of them. Next, we are going to have the 2013 NFL draft class. They are clocking in at 7 on my list. Now, they rank ahead of the 2016 class because 2016 has some big names on them. We just listed them. 2013, you still have a lot of guys starting. Now, this is what is important. 2013 is pretty long ago. And they still have a lot of starters and really good players. Eric Fisher, Deion Jordan, Ziggy Ansah, really good players. Now, you do have your, not so great Tavon Austin, but I think DJ Fluker is good. Star Lotulelei. You got, of course, EJ Manuel drafted in the first round. But you do have now DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Rhodes, Desmond Trufant, Tyler Eifert, Kyle Long, and just looking at the beginning of the second round, Le'Veon Bell, Jamie Collins, Robert Alford, Zach Ertz, Darius Big Play Slay, Giovanni Bernard, Robert Woods. I am going here because of sheer volume. That is the 2013 draft class. Now we're getting to recent years. The 2020 NFL draft class is clocking in at 6. And now these guys are still unproven, okay? But just from the looks of it, Joe Burrow is going to be great. Chase Young, I mean, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Justin Herbert, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire played on a Super Bowl team. Patrick Queen had 66 tackles last year. Brandon Ayuk, they really like him. Justin Jefferson could have won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Jalen Reagor wasn't bad. CeeDee Lamb, awesome. Jerry Jeudy, awesome. Tristan Wirfs, awesome. Henry Ruggs, okay. Mekhi Becton, the Jets really like him. Isaiah Simmons has been great. Justin, Tua, Joe Burrow. Really good quarterbacks there. That's why I have them ranked on my list as 6. And now we're going to enter the top 5. The top 5 draft classes. And might I say, from the second round of this 2020, you still got guys like T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, DeAndre Swift. Really good guys. Jonathan Taylor, Antoine Winfield Jr., Chase Claypool. These are all starters. Cam Akers, Jalen Hurts, J.K. Dobbins. All starters. It's impressive. It really is. Now to get into the top 5. And clocking in at number 5 on my rankings is the 2011 NFL Draft. Now, this is a stacked class. Cam Newton, Von Miller, A.J. Green, Patrick Peterson, Julio Jones, Aldon Smith, before everything that went down, Tyron Smith, J.J. Watt, Mike Pouncey, Nate Solder, Prince Amukamara, Anthony Costanzo, Cameron Jordan, Jimmy Smith, Mark Ingram, Cameron Hayward, Andy Dalton got drafted here. Kyle Rudolph did. Rodney Hudson, Randall Cobb, Justin Houston. I mean, this is an insane draft class here. Insane. Cam Newton won Rookie of the Year, remember? And Von Miller also won the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Think about how many guys, this is now back to 2011, who are still playing. KJ Wright is still going. This is crazy. Anthony Sherman, the fullback. Marcus Cannon, Richard Sherman, Dion Lewis was drafted here. Can you believe that? I didn't know Dion Lewis is that old. But Jason Kelsey was here. Lawrence Guy. It's interesting to see all these guys still around, and that is what makes the 2011 class, I think, phenomenal. I mean, these guys have been around for a while, and they are really good still. That they are, again, my number 5 draft class. Now, number 4, we're going to get into the 2017 NFL draft class. The Rookie of the Year, Alvin Kamara. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Marshon Lattimore. And these guys are unreal. Myles Garrett. Leonard Fournette, just won a Super Bowl. Corey Davis, now on the Jets. Jamal Adams. Awesome. Mike Williams. Christian McCaffrey. I'm just literally, and then, of course, Patrick Mahomes. I already mentioned Marshon Lattimore. Deshaun Watson. Malik Hooker. Marlon Humphrey. O.J. Howard, Adoree Jackson. Jabril Peppers. Trey White. David Njoku. T.J. Watt. And then, oh my, this is just a crazy amount of great players, especially in that first round. And then you find guys like Joe Mixon in the second round. And you also have like Juju Smith-Schuster in the second round. Alvin Kamara was in the third round. Can you believe that? Cooper Kupp there, third round. So this 2017 team draft class was really good. You have Chris Godwin there too. It's a really impressive group. Really impressive group. That's 2017. That clocks in at number 4. Now we're getting into the top 3. We're getting good here. Top 3. Can you guess it? There's only 3 draft classes left. And I am going to go with the 2012 one. Andrew Luck. Awesome. Robert Griffin III, he is out of the league now. Well, no, he's still in the league technically, but he won the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Luke Kuechly won the Defensive Rookie of the Year. You have Ryan Tannehill, who is starting quarterback on a playoff team. Stephon Gilmore, fantastic. Fletcher Cox, Bruce Irvin, Melvin Ingram, Chandler Jones, Dante Hightower, Derek Wolfe, Bobby Wagner, Levante David, Kelechi Osemele. So, I mean, this is another one of those draft classes where you're like, okay, I do put more weight on the fact that these guys have been around for a while and they're still successful. T.Y. Hilton, Lamar Miller had a successful career. And I think, Malik Jackson's on here too. These guys have been really good since 2012. Now, granted, Andrew Luck, the first guy I mentioned, is no longer playing, but that was, his own choice. It's not like he was bad and was kind of forced out of the league. And with Luke Kuechly, same with him. He's gone now, but he was fantastic. And they are number 3 on my list. Number 2. Why don't we get right into the top 2? By giving 2 first, it kind of reveals away who was my number 1, but I don't care. I'm just going to go with it. The 2014 NFL draft class clocks in at number 2 for me. You had, this is insane, Jadeveon Clowney, Sammy Watkins, Khalil Mack, Mike Evans, Eric Ebron, OBJ, Aaron Donald, Kyle Fuller, CJ Mosley, Brandon Cooks, Clinton Dix, Jason Verrett, Jimmy Ward, Bradley Roby. Teddy Bridgewater is on this list too. Speaking of, every time I hear Teddy Bridgewater, I think of John Gruden and his QB camp with him. I have a pretty good John Gruden if you want to hear it. I'll tell you what, man. I take a look at this guy named Teddy Bridgewater. He went to Louisville, man. You ever hear of a quarterback out of Louisville? Back in the day, man. You know what Louisville's known for? They're basketball guys, man. So you're trying to tell me that they took a bunch of basketball players and turned them into football players, man? I don't know, man. I tell you what, I like Teddy Bridgewater a lot, man. He's had a good career. Maybe I'll do the rest of this list in John Gruden's voice, because they also had Derek Carr in this draft class, man. He's the quarterback that I have to deal with now, man. I'm sick and tired of Derek Carr, man, always stinking up the place. But I guess Derek Carr's been a pretty good career here, too. That was my John Gruden. No, but this draft class is actually pretty good. That's why it's second on my list. Kyle Van Noy, Stephon Tuitt, Timmy Jernigan, Devontae Adams, Cody Latimer. So this is, again, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry was drafted after Jimmy Garoppolo. I should have drafted Jarvis Landry instead of Garoppolo. But that is my opinion. So, do you want the drum roll, please? Because if you have been tallying along, this should be no surprise that there is only one draft class left that I have not mentioned over the last 10 years, and that is the 2018 NFL draft class with the well-known 5 documented first-round quarterbacks taken: Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and Lamar Jackson. Baker's been great. Sam Darnold, you know my thoughts on him if you know me at all. I think he's terrible. Josh Allen's going to win MVP soon. Lamar Jackson has won an MVP. Denzel Ward, Bradley Chubb, Quentin Nelson, Saquon Barkley, Roquan Smith. These are, these are all awesome players. It's, incredible. Jair Alexander, Derwin James, Tremaine Edmonds, Marcus Davenport, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Vita Vea, Daron Payne, Leighton Vander Esch. I already mentioned Jair Alexander, I believe. But still, you got DJ Moore, Hayden Hurst, Calvin Ridley, Terrell Edmonds, Nick Chubb in the second round, Darius Leonard in the second round, Ronald Jones, Cortland Sutton, Mike Gesicki. I mean, these guys are incredible. They're all really, really, really good players. You find Fred Warner in the third round. Jerome Baker is starting for Miami. He was in the third round. Orlando Brown Jr., the great offensive tackle. Traquan Smith for New Orleans. I can go on and on here. I can go all day just marveling at these players here in the 2018 NFL draft class. They are impressive. This is an impressive group for sure. Now, they are ranked number 1 on my big board. And to sum out the list for you here, number 1, I had the 2018 class. 2, I had 2014. 3, 2012. 4, 2017. 5, 2011. 6, 2020. 7, 2013. 8, 2016. 9, 2015. 10, 2019. That is my ranking. That is my top 10, and that is the episode. Those are the 10 ranked draft classes over the last 10 years for the NFL. It was draft week this past week, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy the weekend coming up that you're about to have too. And last but not least, I am Andrew DeCino, and I would like to thank you for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, that would be amazing. I'll respond. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day and weekend.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.